all of us are going to deal with different kinds of change that's going to come into our family life and throughout our kids' childhoods. And so while there's so many different things that we're all going to face, no matter what those things are, we can be intentional about building relationships with our kids that makes processing change with them easier for us and easier for them, and helps them to know that we're available to them and that we love them and want to be there with them to help them process this change and adjust to the new normal in their lives. Hey, my name is Sarah Short, and I'm a busy mom of 5 kids, and after almost 2 decades of parenting, I'm here to share with you everything I've learned from my triumphs and successes and from my biggest mistakes. Think of me as the mom who's been where you are, remembers how hard, hilarious, and exhausting your days are, and wants to help you navigate your days as a mom with courage and intention, all while fostering amazing relationships with your kids and a home life you love. My Nana once told me, there's no way but through. Turns out she was right, in life and in motherhood. So throw in some headphones and come laugh and cry with me as we talk about all things mom. This is the No Way But Through podcast. Welcome back to the No Way But Through podcast. So glad you're here with me again today for part 2 of a 2-part podcast on how to help our kids deal with change. If you haven't yet had a chance to listen to last week's episode, which was part 1 of this podcast, then I really encourage you to go back and listen to that episode, because I talked about and shared some very foundational things that I'm going to refer back to in this episode. Also, I would love to remind you that if you've been listening to this podcast and loving it, that I would really love for you to head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for me. Reviews help other moms find this podcast and increase the exposure of it, and so that other moms can find it and be helped by it. So I would love it if you haven't yet, if you'd head over there and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. So I told you last week that I wanted to break this topic into 2 episodes, this topic on helping our kids deal with change, because rather than record one really long episode, I know it can be really helpful for you guys, especially for you new moms, not to have really long episodes, because oftentimes you only have a certain chunk of time while your kids are napping, or while you're in the car driving to carpool, or running into the store real quick to listen to an episode. So I intentionally try to keep these episodes in chunks where they can be consumed pretty quickly and all at once while you have those good chunks of time. It's also one of the reasons that I started a podcast in the first place, rather than continuing to blog, because while I love so much, I love to write, I wanted to record podcasts so that you could throw in some headphones and you could be unloading the dishwasher or folding laundry or cooking dinner, and you could sit and listen to a podcast episode. And I know that sitting down to read a long article is just not something that you all have a lot of time for right now. So this was the way that I wanted to start a podcast, so that y'all could consume this information in a way that's really helpful and easy for you. On last week's episode, I talked about 2 things that are really foundational in helping our kids walk through change, through all different kinds of change that are going to come into their lives throughout their childhood. That's what I talked about in part 1 of this 2-part episode. The first thing I shared with you is that if you want to have a close family, that you have to be intentional about it. And I shared with you that that's because when you have each other, when change comes into your lives as a family and you have each other and you are close and you've been intentional about building that closeness together, then your family has built-in support right inside your home for whatever change comes your way. I shared with you in other episodes of this podcast, particularly in episode 4 on 2 habits that create a close-knit family, on how essential and important dinner together is. Family dinner around the table every night. We prioritize and value family dinner here in our home because family dinner is where we share and where we connect, and it's a safe place for all of us to come together with whatever is going on in our lives. And whatever happened to any of us on any particular day, it's a way for us to be able to come together and support one another as we share our joys and our struggles, and it really helps us develop that closeness. I also shared in that episode 4, that we celebrate our kids individually. That's one of the ways that we develop a close-knit family, is that Jason and I celebrate our kids as unique individuals. We really take time to focus on our kids as individuals, even within a big family. And we make space for that within our family life. And so I really encourage you to go back and listen to episode 4 on 2 habits for creating a close-knit family if you haven't listened to that one yet, because I really think there's some good things in that one that will help you to better be able to process this 2-part episode on helping our kids navigate change. The second thing I talked about with you last week was that even if your kids won't remember it, they are still being formed by it. And I explained that even if your 18-month-old will never remember your family trip to the beach, that they're being formed by that experience that they're having by being with you. That they're learning what it looks like for their older siblings to play in the ocean and play in the sand as they sit on a towel or on a blanket under the umbrella next to you. I encouraged you to take the baby with you on your family outings, to your kids' games and to all the different things that you're doing. And that if you can remember that concept, that they're being formed by the experiences that they're living out before they even have their first memories, that you will be able to build in them skills that are needed to help them process change when it comes. Our kids, they don't just wake up one day and have their first memories. I can look back and remember what my earliest memories were, but I lived a whole lot of life, probably 5 or 6 years before that day, before I had my first memory. And all of that formed me into the individual that I became, and that individual who had her first memories at 5 years old. So I shared with you the importance of remembering that your kids may not remember being in certain situations, but that they will be formed by what's happening to them in their lives before they ever have their first memories. So this week, I told you I was going to talk to you about some very practical tips and tricks and some good advice on how your family can help each other navigate change and how you can help your kids navigate change whenever it comes into your family. Those 2 foundational concepts, I think they're both really important as we frame all of this, but I know y'all love it when I give you very practical things to apply to your very real lives. And so that's what I want to do over the next few minutes that we have together today. What I'm going to do is break up our kids' childhoods into 3 different stages, and then talk about some common changes that can occur within those different stages in their lives, and then some very practical tips for how we've helped our kids during a process change during those different stages. So we'll start out with when a new baby comes into the family, which is kind of a really big change for our kids to process. And then we'll move into sort of the little and middle years, and then into having older kids, later elementary and teens, and how we've helped our kids and how you can help your kids process change in those different stages. Okay, so let's get into it. Stage number 1, a new baby comes into the family. One of the most common changes that's going to come into our kids' lives when they are really little is a new baby coming onto the scene. Y'all have talked to me a lot about how it's just something you're so unsure about as young moms and just not quite sure how to navigate that, and that it can come with struggles. And y'all, it did for me. I remember and have pictures of when I had my second baby and his older brother Jack was 18 months old, and Jack walked into the room with a balloon. Jason had brought him to the hospital, and he walked into the room with a balloon. And one of the pictures that I have of him, of Jack, is him standing by the door holding that balloon with just this sad and like really helpless expression on his face, because Jason had been talking to him that a new baby had arrived, and he had seen the baby growing in my belly, and he was just so unsure about the whole thing. And then the picture that I used for the graphic in last week's episode was the day when I introduced Jack to his new brother, that same day. And Jack crawled up into my lap, and y'all, his face, it's just heartbreaking. Like, we laugh about it so much in my family now anytime I pull up that photo. But he was so upset, and he's looking at Max with this side eye like, who is this? Who is this new creature that is sitting on my mom's lap? And I'm feeling so heartbroken about it. Like, he just didn't understand what a gift, what a tremendous gift Max was going to be in his life. As I've had additional kids and had more experience with this as a mom, there are a few things that have really, really helped my older kids adjust to a new baby coming into our family. One of those really practical things that I've learned to do is that we always have a present for the older kids that's from the new baby. This was a tip that an older mom a few stages ahead of me gave me that I began to employ as I had additional kids. What a lot of moms will do, a lot of my friends were doing back when I was having new babies, was that they would have the older kids bring a present into the hospital for the new baby. But what she explained to me, this mom that was a few stages ahead of me, what she explained to me was that having a present at the hospital that was for the older sibling or siblings from the new baby would show the older kids, who were probably toddlers or really little kids at the time, that the new baby loved them, that the new baby had a gift for them. And as I began to use that and have gifts for my older kids from the new baby, and I welcomed my third and fourth and fifth kids into the family, it really was such a special thing. And it ended up being really, really good for my unsure toddlers and little kids when they enter the hospital room. We use this then, like I just expressed, for kids, more and more kids as they came into our family. We continued to use this, and it even became something that my oldest kids really looked forward to. Like when I had my last Holly, her older brothers were 6 and 8, and they knew when they came to the hospital that the new baby was going to have a gift for them. And it just helped bond us, and it helped them see the new baby as not someone who was threatening, but as someone who loved them and was being enveloped into our family, and that it was a really good thing. Number 2, we really involved our older kids in letting them help care for the new baby. We taught our little toddlers what it was like to hold the baby and care for the baby and feed them the bottle or play with them on the floor mat with the flashing lights above the floor mat. And we let them put the blankets in the bed for the baby, and we just made the new baby part of our family rhythms, and we tried not to change a whole lot about what we were already doing. We didn't all then begin to go in separate directions because dad was taking out the older kids and mom needed to stay home with the baby. What we really decided that we were just going to make the new baby a family affair that we were all going to go in on. As I expressed last week, this is how we still operate as a family today. When someone in our family is involved in something, we all just kind of do it together, and we all rally around that person. And this has been something that our kids have been practicing in our life as a family since new babies arrived on the scene. The other thing that we've done is that we've always had the new baby around the table. And what that has looked like when we had a newborn is that I would pull up the bouncy seat or the little bassinet, wherever I would keep our newborn to keep them safe from his or her siblings, was to put them in the corner of our kitchen and just have them right there where we were eating dinner as a family. And the baby would just be right there in the corner and became part of our family dinner scenario, even though he or she couldn't even sit at the table with us. And then as we got toddlers, we would eventually pull the baby and the toddler up to the table, but we would include our new babies in our conversation about our highs and lows, about our days. And the baby was just kind of there in there and part of it. And sometimes my highs and lows as the mom, they would be centered around the baby because that was so much of my life when a new baby came home. But what it did by having that baby in the kitchen with us was it made our new baby part of our family rhythms and part of our family. And it helped our older kids process the change of a new baby coming in, but not causing everything to change and there to be all of this upheaval around a new baby entering our family. I found these things really helped our older kids, and it was very intentional thinking on our parts as parents as we navigated this in our home. That what we were going to do was just envelop the new baby into our family life and who we already were as a family. And it helped our kids transition because it showed our kids that the new baby wasn't going to change everything. Our life didn't become chaotic and crazy and everything changed because a new baby came into our family. And it showed our kids that we could have a new member of our family join and still remain who we were, even though we had to make some minor adjustments. So let's move on to the next set of years, like our kids' little years, late preschool and elementary school. What are some ways that we helped our kids navigate different kinds of change in their little years? When I talk about change, I'm referring to anything from, like I just mentioned, a new baby joining the family, which definitely has its own set of issues and really requires some attention. But I'm also talking about now as they get older, a family crisis of some sort, where one of you is no longer living in the home because of circumstances, or extended family is experiencing trauma of some sort, or there's sickness or physical struggle in your family, either in your extended family with grandparents or with someone in your own house, your immediate family, and life just doesn't look the way it always has. One of the things that's been really helpful for our preschool into little year kids, it's been for us to get really involved in our kids' likes. I remember my boys being so into trains when they got into their later preschool and little years. And I have this very distinct memory of the first time I sat down to play trains with them and Jack talking to me about the names of the trains, and this specific memory of it occurring to me that he knows something in life that I don't know. He knew all of the names of the trains sitting in front of him, and I didn't know them all. My kid had something to teach me. And I just remember that being so mind-blowing to me, like my child knows something that I don't know. But I remember sitting around that train table with him and just wanting to be in it with him, to learn the names of those trains and just enjoy sitting there playing that with him. When Jack left to go off to kindergarten, and it was so hard on Max, who had been playing trains around that table with us for a couple of years, it was so hard on Max. And when Jack left to go off to kindergarten, because I had invested that time in getting to know these trains and spending hours at that table, I was ready to be the buddy for Max that Jack was, and that Jack had just left for kindergarten and could no longer be for him during the day. Change had come into Max's life. But because I was into the thing that they were both into, and I had intentionally made time to sit there at that train table, I was easily able to slide into that role and be able to be knowledgeable and play Thomas Trains with Max. The same thing was then true over the years with my kids who loved different games and had different likes and things that they were into, that as I made the intentional choice to prioritize my time with them and to be into the things that they were into with them, whenever another sibling went off to kindergarten or when other change came into their lives, I was able to slide into those things with them and help them to process change by being present with them and involved in the things that they loved and maintain a really good connection with them, even when there was change in and around their lives. I wasn't trying to conjure it up or make it happen when change came, because I had spent the time investing in it by knowing their stuff, being intentional about spending time with them, doing what they really loved, and it empowered me and enabled me to connect with them when we needed to process change together. All right, so now I'm going to move into the last stage, which is their middle years, later elementary years, middle school, high school. I'm going to kind of lump all of these together because there really is this advice that I'm going to give you. This really does apply to all of these ages. And the best piece of advice I can share with you is to prioritize one-on-one time with them. I cannot tell you how important it is for you to spend one-on-one time with your kids. And I know that this can be hard when you have a bigger family and you have multiple kids. I know that this is hard. So you will absolutely have to intentionally prioritize it in order for it to happen. But one-on-one time with your older kids will be so valuable to you when change and hardship and hard things come into their lives. Because it is in this one-on-one time that you're able to connect with them as individual people and develop a relationship with them that is uniquely yours and just shared between the two of you. One of the things that we always do when we get time with our kids one-on-one is we ask them two questions. Our kids know that if we are going to spend one-on-one time with them, intentional time, that mom is going to ask them these two questions, and here's what they are. 1, what is something you love about your life? And 2, what is something that's hard about your life? I love these questions because they are not threatening. They are open-ended and they give our kids space to process as intimately as they want to. They can respond with something like, I love that we're having ice cream tonight. Or they can respond with what a new relationship or a new friendship in their life looks like. And when they share about what's hard about their life, this is when I get a window into them as people, and I get a window into what they're going through that they might not have otherwise shared with me. They will share things with me when we are one-on-one that they would never share around our family table. And a lot of times, what they share with me when we are one-on-one is change that's come into their lives that I didn't know about. They've lost a friend from circumstances that were out of their control, or maybe circumstances that were in their control. Maybe a friend has begun to treat them in a certain way, and that's changed their friendship, and they can't figure out why or how to fix it, and they'll share that with me. They'll share why that's hard and that it's happening, and it gives me a window into this unexpected change that's happened in their lives. What is something about your life that's hard? When I ask this question and it's just us, it gives them a place of safety and trust where they can share what they're going through and stuff that they would not share if we were all together around their table or if we were in the car and their siblings were around. One-on-one time with your kids will have incredible impact on them, and it will pay dividends far into the future. It is the biggest thing that I do with my kids that really helps me understand them, to know where they are and what they're struggling with, and to communicate to them and help them know that I am for them and with them and available to them. And that even in the midst of our very busy family life with a lot of people and a lot of moving parts, and me working now and their dad working, and our very full life around here, that my relationship with them is incredibly important to me. And the one-on-one time that I spend with them communicates this. Another thing that's available to you and that can be really helpful for you as you help your older kids process change is to offer them counseling. I can't tell you how beneficial professional counseling was in my own life when I was younger, and how beneficial it is to me now. And also how beneficial it's been in my kids' lives when we've gone through change and they've needed counseling. You will not spend your money on anything better than giving your kids someone to talk to, a professional who is able to help them work through and process their feelings and any kind of change in their lives. I am such a huge fan of counseling, and I would encourage you with your kids, that in seasons of change and when things are hard for them, to seek out professional counseling for your kids. And that's for you as well. If you need counseling to help you process what's going on in your kids' lives, I would strongly encourage you to seek out professional counseling for yourself as well. Another thing that will help your kids be able to process change and for you to be able to walk through that with them is to know their friends. Invite their friends over. Make your home a place where your kids' friends love to come and hang out. And this isn't even just for older kids. This is for your kids all the way from when they're really, really little in their younger years, all the way up through having teens and adult kids. Make your home a place that's open to your kids' friends. Buy the pizza, buy the soda, make the brownies, and allow your kids to invite their friends in. It is amazing what you will be able to learn about your kids' relationships and about what's happening at school or at church, and signs that you'll be able to see in some of their friends that are unhealthy, and be able to discern which of your kids' friends are for them or not for them just by inviting them over and being around them in your home. Stand in your kitchen with them and have them gather around the island just while they're grabbing their pizza. And while they're there, ask their friends questions. Ask them what's going on in their lives and what they love about their lives and what's hard about their lives. We have so much opportunity to get a window into who our kids' friends are. And then this will help us to help our kids process change when it comes into their lives and know who their friends are. You will have invaluable intel that you've gotten from those times when you spend with your kids and their friends in your home. Is this always convenient? Is this always what you might want to do? No. But this is so valuable and will really give you such good insight and help you to be able to walk with your kids through whatever change, whatever seasons they're going through. So those are just some really practical things that I wanted to share with you that we've done throughout the different stages in our kids' lives to help be there for them and help them process change, to get ahead of it, right? To be intentional about setting up patterns and habits and building relationships with them, that then when specific change comes into our lives, we can help them grow and process it in really healthy ways. all of us are going to deal with different kinds of change that's going to come into our family life and throughout our kids' childhoods. And so while there's so many different things that we're all going to face, no matter what those things are, we can be intentional about building relationships with our kids that makes processing change with them easier for us and easier for them, and helps them to know that we're available to them and that we love them and want to be there with them to help them process this change and adjust to the new normal in their lives. So much of motherhood, so much of being a mom requires intention. I talked about that in part 1 of this podcast last week. But intention isn't free. Intention isn't always easy. But in all of these different ways, in all of these different seasons of our kids' lives, when you are intentional, then you get to impact outcomes. You get to impact what you're ready to handle when change comes and what your kids are ready to handle. Being interested in what they're interested in, spending time, one-on-one time with them as they're growing up, offering them counseling, knowing their friends. All of these things will help you be able to walk through change with your kids, to impact your relationship with them, to make it close, help them to know that you're accessible, and help you to process change with them no matter what crisis or hard things hit their lives. I really hope that these last couple of weeks that I've given you some good things to think about as young moms, as you want to be available to your kids and you want to be able to help them walk through change well and process change with them, whatever it is that comes into their lives, whether it's a new baby or mom and dad don't live together anymore, or someone in the family is sick and needs extra attention, or any of the plethora of friendship issues that are going to come into their lives over the years. I hope that this podcast over the last 2 weeks has given you ways to be intentional about building relationships with your kids that makes processing change easier for them and allows you to communicate to them in your actions and with your words that you are available and that you want to walk through change with them and help them get through it. Thanks for being here, y'all. I really love spending this time with you each week. See y'all next time on the No Way But Through podcast. You've just listened to another episode of the No Way But Through podcast. If you want to connect with other like-minded moms and join our growing online community, head on over to Instagram and follow along with us at No Way But Through. You can always reach me over there throughout the week. And if you'd like to financially support this podcast, there's a link at the bottom of every episode where you can do just that.